Wow, this is damning information. This can't be true, can it?
The critical missing piece in autism research is vaccinated versus unvaccinated studies. Thankfully, there are now 6 good studies that we can rely on. Unfortunately, these studies have been systematically suppressed and ignored by the mainstream media and the medical establishment. 2 studies by Gallagher and Goodman show that the birth dose of the hepatitis B vaccine significantly increases autism risk. 3 studies by Anthony Mawson confirm that vaccination increases the odds of developing autism by at least 4.2-fold. Preterm birth, coupled with vaccination, increases the odds of neurodevelopmental disability by more than 12-fold compared to preterm birth without vaccination. And finally, a study by Hooker and Miller published in 2021 found that vaccination increases autism risk 5-fold. Vaccination in the absence of breastfeeding increases autism risk 12.5-fold. Vaccination in addition to C-section birth increases autism risk 18.7-fold. After conducting the systematic review of 1,000 studies, my belief is that the autism and chronic disease epidemics are primarily caused by toxicants, mostly from vaccines, and about a dozen additional toxicants. If we stop exposing children to these hazards in the first place, that would stop the epidemics of chronic illness in children. Now we must summon the political will to act. Thank you.
September 19th, 2025. Let's look at this. So Toby Rogers, thank you for all you do. And in that video, he references this study, right? A study by Hooker and Miller. And he mentions that vaccinated versus unvaccinated, we're looking at about a 5-fold increase in autism. That's been debated for a long time and is true. Continue to debate. But what really stands out to me is 12.5-fold increase in the absence of breastfeeding and 18.7-fold increase in the addition of C-section. Now, where I've seen this online in social media, in the comments, people are always asking, why does C-section matter? Why does breastfeeding matter? And that's an important question. What I don't see, or who I don't see asking that question, is doctors. Okay, when they hear these numbers, all they do is say, no, vaccines are safe and effective. The American Academy of Pediatrics told me so, and I stand by them. Okay, they completely outsource their critical thinking and don't even look into them themselves. What doctors should be doing is going, wow, those numbers are statistically significant. Is this even plausible? And asking the questions and looking into how and why this could be a thing. So since they're not, let's do it together. And I hope you have some patience to dive into this with me. All right. Why do the variables of C-section versus vaginal delivery and breastfeeding versus formula feeding have such a big impact on vaccine response? And of course, by extension, potential adverse vaccine events. Let's look at it. Well, it all comes down to the microbiome. It really does. The gut microbiome is a key player in the immune system, with 70 to 80% of the body's immune cells residing in the gut. That is a large majority of your body's immune response. This close proximity highlights the profound influence of gut bacteria on both the local gut immunity as well as your systemic immune response. The influence of the gut microbiome is multifaceted and essential for maintaining a balanced and effective immune system. In early life, the gut microbiome educates the developing immune system. It teaches the body to distinguish between harmless foreign substances like food and commensal bacteria and dangerous pathogens. Studies on germ-free mice, which are born and raised without any microbes, show severely underdeveloped immune systems. Gut microbes break down complex dietary fibers to produce short-chain fatty acids, and these short-chain fatty acids are crucial signaling molecules that nourish the cell's lining of the gut, maintaining the integrity of the intestinal barrier, but also regulate the function of immune cells and promote the development of regulatory T cells, or Tregs. Now, Tregs are essential for suppressing excessive inflammation and preventing autoimmune responses, dialing things down so we don't react too big, right? The constant interaction between gut microbes and immune cells in the gut-associated lymph tissue keeps the immune system in a state of readiness. It helps prime both the innate and adaptive immune responses, allowing the body to mount a more effective defense against pathogens even in distant parts of the body. So it is key. A healthy and diverse gut microbiome creates a physical and chemical barrier that prevents the pathogenic bacteria from colonizing in the gut. A disruption in gut microbiome, often caused by factors like being born C-section, being formula fed instead of breastfed, poor diet, antibiotic use, and stress, can all lead to immune dysregulation. This can contribute to chronic inflammation, a weakened immune response to infections, and increased risk of inflammatory and autoimmune diseases. Vaginal and C-section births result in very different microbiome exposures for newborns. It is a stark difference. The initial differences shape the infant's gut microbiome, with some of the most notable differences being in the levels of beneficial and opportunistic bacteria. Vaginal births. Babies born vaginally get their first dose of microbes from their mom's birth canal and gut. This seeding populates their gut with bacteria that are crucial for immune system development and nutrient processing. The top microbes found in vaginally born children are bacteroids, the key genus of bacteria that are typically a dominant part of the adult gut microbiome. They are essential for breaking down complex carbohydrates from breast milk and for helping the immune system mature. Children born via C-section often have significantly lower abundance of these microbes, if any at all. The bifidobacterium is a genus of beneficial bacteria that are crucial for the infant's gut health. They thrive on human milk oligosaccharides found in breast milk and help produce the short-chain fatty acids, which are vital for healthy gut lining and immune function. And lactobacillus. These are lactic acid producing bacteria commonly found in the vaginal microbes, and they are important for maintaining a healthy gut environment. Now, in stark contrast, babies born via C-section miss out on the initial microbial bath. Instead, they are first exposed to bacteria from the hospital environment and from the skin. This results in different and often less diverse microbiome. The microbes commonly found in a C-section born child's gut are opportunistic pathogens like Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, Enterococcus, and Klebsiella. Conversely, they have a lower abundance of complete lack of the beneficial microbes acquired during vaginal birth, especially the bacteroids and the bifidobacterium. The difference in the microbiome between vaginally and C-section born babies tend to decrease over the first few years of life due to factors like diet, hopefully breastfeeding, and environmental exposures. However, some studies suggest the subtle differences can persist into later childhood, but it's those first year of life that they are introduced to a battery of vaccines. Now, there are literally dozens and dozens and dozens of studies nowadays connecting the gut microbiome and vaccine response. The key of what they're looking for here is they're only studying effectiveness of the vaccine. They're not looking at adverse events. But even with what they're looking for in effectiveness gives us a lot of insights. So multiple studies and articles demonstrate a significant and complex relationship between the gut microbiome and the effectiveness of vaccines. The gut microbiome is increasingly recognized as a key modulator of the host immune system, and its composition can influence how an individual responds to a vaccine. The gut microbiota, as the largest microbial community in the human body, interacts with the immune system through various mechanisms. It can enhance immune response by acting as a natural adjuvant. For example, certain bacterial components, like flagellin, can bind to pattern recognizing receptors, toll-like receptor number 5, on immune cells. This interaction can trigger the production of cytokines, leading to increased plasma cell differentiation and a more robust antibody response. Several studies highlight the role of specific microbial taxa in improving vaccine response. The bifidobacteria and the lactobacillus, these genera are frequently associated with a better immune response to vaccines. The short-chain fatty acids are associated with enhanced B-cell metabolism and antibody production, which can lead to a longer-lasting immunity. And very specific species have been linked to higher abundance of specific, like the Bifidobacterium adolescentis. It goes on to say a few of these. If they're there at the time of vaccination, you get a better immune response. So these greatly influence immune response. The use of antibiotics. Okay, so pause. Beyond just C-section and beyond breastfeeding, what are other factors that can affect vaccine response and the gut microbiome? The use of antibiotics, right? Particularly broad spectrum ones can disrupt the gut microbiome and lead to diminished immune response to vaccines. A study on the rabies vaccine showed that individuals who took antibiotics had a significantly lower and less durable antibody response. This weakened response was linked to altered immune cell activity, increased inflammation, that's a big deal, and changes in metabolites. Fecal microbiota transplant has been shown to rescue impaired vaccine response in animal models. Our diet matters, okay? Fiber-rich diets, high-fat diets, dietary supplements, all of these can play a factor in immune response. Our age and genetics matter. Infants versus elderly, socioeconomic factors matter in vaccine response, okay? And it's a bidirectional relationship. The relationship is not one way. Research suggests that vaccination can also alter the gut microbiota. So not only does the microbiome influence the vaccine response, vaccines influence the gut microbiota. Studies have shown that the vaccines can alter the gut flora, and the extent and duration of these changes can vary depending on the vaccine type. This alone should show you that a vaccine, or more importantly, the vaccine schedule, can never safely be a one-size-fits-all approach. Breastfeeding. Breastfeeding has a profound and positive impact on babies' gut microbiome, largely due to unique components in human milk that nourish beneficial bacteria and contribute to immune system development. Breastfed infants consistently show a different and healthier gut microbiome composition compared to formula-fed infants. Key factors there are the human milk oligosaccharides, which are a complex sugar that are the third most abundant solid component of human milk. But a baby's digestive system can't break that down. It's there as a prebiotic, serving as food for specific beneficial bacteria in the infant's gut. This selective feeding process promotes the growth of certain microbes. Breast milk isn't sterile. It contains a diverse community of living bacteria that are transferred from the mother's body to the infant's gut. These microbes, including species of bifidobacteria and lactobacillus, there they are again, are critical for colonizing the baby's gut and helping to establish a healthy microbial ecosystem. And breast milk contains a variety of immune modulating compounds such as secretory immunoglobulin A and lactoferrin. These components help suppress the growth of harmful pathogenic bacteria, giving the beneficial bacteria a competitive advantage. This process helps to build the baby's immune system and protect against infections. So, breastfeeding results in a gut microbiome that is primarily dominated by bifidobacterium species. This is in a stark contrast to the gut of a formula-fed infant, which tends to be more diverse but often contains a higher proportion of potentially pathogenic bacteria, such as C. diff and E. coli. So the bifidobacterium-rich microbiome of a breastfed infant is considered a cornerstone of a healthy immune system, and these bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate by fermenting the human milk oligosaccharides. The short-chain fatty acids are crucial for strengthening the gut lining, reducing inflammation, again key, and regulating the immune response, all of which contribute to lower risk of allergies, asthma, and chronic inflammatory disease later in life. So, breastfeeding can significantly enhance a baby's immune and vaccine response by directly supplying immune boosting components and by fostering a healthy gut microbiome that primes the immune system. Breast milk provides passive immunity by transferring the mother's antibodies to the infant. These antibodies coat the baby's gut lining, creating a protective barrier against pathogens. This is crucial as a baby's own immune system is still immature. In addition to antibodies, breast milk contains a diverse mix of immune cells, proteins, and anti-inflammatory compounds. These compounds act as immune trainers, helping to regulate and mature the baby's developed immune system, ensuring it can mount a balanced immune response, a balanced response to threats without overreacting. Breastfeeding can directly improve the baby's response to vaccinations or any other natural infection. Studies have shown that breastfeeding infants often produce a higher antibody level This enhanced response is thought to be a result of the microbiome immune system interaction. The human milk oligosaccharides in breast milk act as a prebiotic, feeding the beneficial bacteria like bifidobacterium. These bacteria in turn produce short-chain fatty acids and help regulate immune cells and promote a more robust and effective immune memory. This leads to better and long-lasting protective response from the vaccine. So, if these microbiome factors can so greatly influence vaccine response, it is a logical plausibility that they also influence vaccine adverse events. Don't you think? Here's a breakdown of what the studies show. C-section, gut microbiome, and immune response. It is well established that babies born via C-section have a different gut microbiome composition than those born vaginally. They miss the initial exposure to mom's vaginal and fecal bacterial during birth. Instead, their gut is colonized by microbes from the hospital environment and the mom's skin, often with a lower abundance of beneficial bacteria, if any. The early microbial colonization is a critical window for priming the infant's immune system. The gut microbiota teaches the immune system what is a threat and what is not. This process is thought to be less effective in C-section born infants due to initial dysbiosis. Reduced vaccine efficacy. Multiple studies have found a correlation between C-section delivery and a weaker immune response to vaccines. A study published in Nature Microbiology found that the single dose of the measles vaccine was up to 2.6 times more likely to be ineffective in children born by C-section compared to those born vaginally. Other research has shown that C-section born babies have lower antibody levels after receiving vaccines for lung infections and meningitis. Okay, so far we've established that microbiome is a major player in primary and secondary vaccine failure, as well as vaccine immunity long term. It goes one way or the other depending on the microbiome. So if you really understand this, you realize that herd immunity can never be achieved through the vaccination and vaccine campaigns. But still, what about adverse events? This is where we have to put our thinking caps on. Adverse events versus efficacy. There's a critical distinction there. The studies that we've referenced and that are widely available in the scientific literature all focus on reduced vaccine efficacy, like I said earlier, meaning the vaccine is less likely to produce a protective antibody response. They don't typically link C-section related microbiome alterations to an increased risk of a specific adverse event, but it matters. While an altered gut microbiome is associated with a higher risk of immune-related disorders later in life, such as asthma, allergies, celiac disease, inflammatory bowel disease, there is currently no direct evidence in the scientific literature to support the conclusions that C-section related microbiome alterations make a child more prone to vaccine adverse events. But that's because they aren't looking for it. They're only looking at efficacy. So, what do we know? What are the facts so far that have been proven? C-section births result in a different and often less diverse gut microbiome in infants compared to vaginal births. The altered microbiome is linked to a less robust immune response to certain vaccines, which can lead to vaccine failure. The gut microbiome plays a foundational role in the development of the immune system and is implicated in long-term health issues like allergies and asthma. So we do see a clearly established need of the importance of using probiotics and especially vaginal seeding to restore the microbiome to improve vaccine and immune system outcomes for kids born via C-section and kids that are formula fed. That's a given. Now, with what we've uncovered so far, what are the plausible implications that this has on inflammation and potential adverse events? So, an altered gut microbiome, particularly one lacking certain beneficial bacteria like bifidobacterium, is associated with a state of low-grade chronic systemic inflammation. The gut immune axis is a two-way street. A healthy, diverse microbiome helps train the immune system to be more tolerant and balanced. Dysbiosis can lead to leaky gut, allowing microbial components to enter the bloodstream. When a vaccine is administered, it is designed to activate the immune response. And in a system that is already operating with a baseline of heightened inflammation, this new powerful immune trigger could potentially lead to a more exaggerated and dysregulated inflammatory response. This could manifest as a more pronounced fever, swelling, or other systemic effects. It's the difference between a controlled fire and a flashover. The initial conditions matter. A healthy gut microbiome promotes the development of regulatory T cells. Tregs are crucial for maintaining immune tolerance and preventing excessive or autoimmune-like reactions. Studies have shown that germ-free mice with no gut microbiome have a notable deficiency in Tregs. The plausible link to adverse events. A deficiency in Tregs can mean the body is less equipped to put on the brakes when the immune response is activated. It stays stuck on. Without the proper checks and balances, the immune system might overreact to the vaccine antigen and or excipients, leading to a more severe or prolonged adverse event. This could be a mechanism explaining not just reduced efficacy, but also more difficult time managing the side effects. It's also possible that the vaccine itself, as a powerful immune stimulus, can cause temporary shifts in the microbiome. And for an infant with an already precarious dysbiotic microbiome, as seen in some C-section-born infants, the disruption could lead to a more significant and symptomatic imbalance. So, highly plausible because it's built on a foundation of established scientific principles. The gut microbiome is a key regulator of immune system development and function. An imbalanced microbiome is linked to chronic inflammation and less tolerant immune system. C-section births are associated with an altered microbiome from the start. Therefore, the logical extension of these facts is that a child with an altered, inflammatory-prone immune system might be more likely to have a more pronounced adverse reaction to a vaccine. It is a known unknown. The scientific community has focused on a more urgent and easily measurable outcome, vaccine efficacy. That's all they're looking at. However, the logical next step for research would be to investigate whether modulating the microbiome not only improves vaccine response, but also reduces the incidence of severity of adverse events. This remains to be a fertile area for future study. Now, let's really connect the dots with the disrupted microbiome, immunoexcitotoxicity, and autism, as well as other neurological disorders like epilepsy, learning disabilities. It goes on and on. So here's how the scientific literature supports the plausibility of what I'm claiming. The bidirectional communication. The gut-brain axis is a well-established communication network. The gut microbiome influences the brain through various pathways, including the vagus nerve. The production of neuroactive metabolites like short-chain fatty acids and the regulation of immune cells and cytokines. A growing body of research, primarily in animal models, but also in human observational studies, links gut dysbiosis to neurodegenerative disorders like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. The mechanism is believed to be a chronic, low-grade inflammation. An imbalanced microbiome can lead to this leaky gut, allowing inflammatory molecules to cross the blood-brain barrier. These molecules can then cross the blood-brain barrier, activating resident immune cells in the brain, the microglia and the astrocytes. The microglia are the brain's primary immune cells. While essential for clearing debris and fighting pathogens, when they are chronically activated by inflammatory signals from the periphery, they can release a cascade of pro-inflammatory cytokines, reactive oxygen species, and other neurotoxic factors. This is the core of neuroinflammation. Immunoexcitotoxicity as the mechanism. Excitotoxicity. This term refers to the pathological process by which nerve cells are damaged and killed by excessive stimulation from neurotransmitters like glutamate. Now the immunocomponent. When microglia become overactive, they can release substances that interfere with the normal regulation of glutamate, leading to its buildup at the synapse. This is a crucial link. Inflammation is causing a direct toxic effect on neurons via excitotoxicity. Now, a vaccine's purpose is to generate a strong temporary inflammatory response. In a system with a healthy, well-regulated immune system, primed by a balanced microbiome, this inflammation is localized and resolved quickly. However, in a system that is already on high alert due to dysbiosis, the vaccine could act as a final trigger, pushing the system into an over-the-top inflammatory cascade that extends to the central nervous system. This could plausibly lead to neuroinflammation and, in a vulnerable individual, contribute to long-term neurological issues. The C-section, the Tregs, neuroprotection. As we've discussed, C-section-born babies have an altered microbiome and potentially a less robust population of regulatory T cells, the Tregs. Tregs are not just important for peripheral immune tolerance, they are also crucial for neuroprotection. They can traffic to the brain and suppress neuroinflammation by inhibiting microglia activation and releasing anti-inflammatory molecules. We're missing the brakes. If an infant has fewer or less effective Tregs due to their birth method and early microbial environment, including the lack of breastfeeding, their ability to put the brakes on a vaccine-induced immune response would be compromised. This could allow the inflammatory response to become more severe and potentially spread to the brain, where it could cause the kind of immunoexcitotoxicity I described. So the chain of plausibility. C-section delivery and not breastfeeding leads to an altered gut microbiome or dysbiosis, which leads to a compromised immune regulation with fewer Tregs, low-grade systemic inflammation, which means the body has a harder time putting on the brakes. A vaccine is administered, which is designed to trigger an immune response in the compromised system. This trigger could result in an exaggerated and dysregulated inflammatory response that reaches the brain. This neuroinflammation could lead to immunoexcitotoxicity, a process of neuronal damage. While a single event is unlikely to cause a full-blown neurodegenerative disease, it could possibly contribute to a subtle neurological deficit or, in a susceptible individual, trigger a more severe outcome. And the vaccine schedule is not a single event. It is a sequential immune activation that builds one upon the other until the tipping point is reached. While this remains a strong hypothesis rather than a proven fact in the context of C-section, breastfeeding, vaccines, and neurodegeneration, it is a highly plausible biological pathway that researchers are actively exploring. The field of neuroimmunology is rapidly expanding, and these connections between the gut and the immune system and the brain are at its core. Okay, guys, thank you for sticking with me. Look, vaccines have risk. And the risk is nuanced. Vaccines have benefits, and the benefit is nuanced. Informed consent is what matters, and we all should have the freedom to make those decisions on our own. More importantly, why am I looking at this and doctors are not? Doctors need to put on their critical thinking hats, look at the plausibility, look at the hypotheses, figure out, is this possible? It is. And are we a part of the problem? You are. So if you know that, you can change it. Start learning. All right. Thank you, everybody.